interesting, yes, what we heard there also, like, do we have the technology for that last mile? Marianne, you have a very global view. So I'm just going to dive in on that last piece we heard there. How does the technology for last mile in emerging markets look like? Do you have a view on that?
First of all, I found the remarks spot on as far as trying to get the right global teams, industry groups, FIs, fintech, whatever you want to call us, partners, together in what I would call a working group. I hesitate to always rely on the technological answers. To me, the technology is a how. It's a very important how, but it's a how. I think that as a group, a set of partners, we need to identify the what. What exactly are we trying to accomplish? Define it. It could be timing. It could be currencies. It could be settlement. It could be what's the what? And then go in search of the technology that can actually help us achieve that. It could be an existing technology. It could be one that we need to form. So while technology to me is an extremely important part of it, we often seek to go there first, as opposed to, what exactly that we're trying to solve. And I know when we try to get into these cross-border, cross-functional, cross-geo, payment types, right? And obviously, Nexus is one, what India and Singapore did. There's always kind of been these jurisdictionally driven bilaterals, maybe trilaterals in place, right? And I do believe that as an industry, we just need to not necessarily go big bang, but continue to create working groups, industry working groups that are somewhat voluntary. It's an investment of our time for the greater good. Involve more players, central banks, FIs, fintechs, maybe a very ingenious or eager corporate that's willing to be a guinea pig with us. I'm just going to remind. I might have brought this up on this group or another group a couple of times, but we go back to this has been an ongoing pilgrimage. If you go back to the late 90s and early 2000s, there was actually a global industry work group formed called WATCH, and it stands for Worldwide Automated Transaction Clearinghouse. There was actually about 5 or 7 central banks and about 15 global FIs that worked for about 2 years to see if they could come up with a set of standards, a technology, a set of rules, a set of timings that would allow that literal cross-border ubiquity that we're all aiming for. And of course, it's 25 years later, and that still hasn't happened. But I just think if we can continue on with the work like a Nexus did, and get it outside of certain, maybe add another geo, or maybe just make it geo-specific and mix the geos later, that it's a really good industry investment of time and money to see if we can get there.
You have mentioned one word a few times, and that is standard. So I just want to see specifically with this, like the submission the CPMI had recently. Do you think enough is done on that standard piece, or what would you like to see happening?
There's never enough. I mean, how many decades have we had standards? It go back to X.25 and XML, and there's just been a ton of acronyms, and ISO comes the closest because of its data richness, but there's standards within standards. And it was very interesting. I was at Money 2020 last week, and this was actually a very active part of the conversation with, can we all ever get there? Because we each have our own variability within those standards. So I think getting to an 80-20, making that up, if 80% of what could be in that standard works for the majority, 80%, there will always be a 20% that needs tailored to the geo, to the vertical, to the industry, to the jurisdiction. But I think if we could reach a point where it's a drop down, you say, okay, these are the countries I'm going to, I'm 80% set. Here's the 20% I have to take into consideration, when working in that particular environment. I do think it will serve us well, because right now there's too many questions on why ISO, why haven't too many people adopted it? Can you monetize it? If I'm doing all this work, can I make money off of it? There's still a lot of questions about actually getting ISO up and running for everybody everywhere.
On just coming back to technology to round it off on that, I mean, IBM is really that cutting edge, and I heard about 80% of world's payments touch something IBM, which I think is a remarkable statistics. But
it's a true statistic, FYI, it's true. But everybody thinks of us as hardware and software. So go ahead.
What is the cutting edge technology that might accelerate our journey?
I'm going out on a limb, but I actually think it's quantum and quantum computing. It brings an ability to speed up complicated transactions. It brings an ability to do what traditional computing will never go away. Quantum is not going to replace traditional computing, but it's a different scale of computing that allows us to do complicated efforts faster. I won't necessarily say simpler because you have to be able to understand it, but it can take a problem that would take literally 1 million years for a traditional computer to solve, can be solved in hours with quantum computing. And so I think it would behoove us, and of course, quantum is best known in the security space, but it has many, many benefits far outside the security space in the logistics and diagnostics and analytics space. And so I do think that is a technology that is, I kind of compare it to blockchain 10 years ago when nobody knew what it was and nobody understood it and everybody said it was going to, be the next new generation of technology, which it sort of is, but it's still, not universally applied. I feel like now we're in a phase of trying to understand, explain, and take advantage of what quantum and quantum computing can bring to the table, especially in a real-time world.
Yeah, so I've heard it's like more over the last, I would say just the last, I wouldn't say 12, 6 months that this quantum has gone up more and more. So do you see it as something we should know about?
Yes.
12 months or 18 months, or can we hang around a bit and wait to see what's coming?
My answer is no, you don't want to wait, just like you don't want to be last to the gate. It's interesting, if you go back to Y2K, we all knew when Y2K was going to occur. Midnight 1999, right? We now call this Y2Q because it's out there already. There are quantum computers. There are companies signing up to use quantum to do very interesting things. An extremely large bank in Canada signed up to use it to do liquidity management, its own money desk, not for anything else. So it's the Y2Q factor that should have us all interested because it's going to come, whether it's 3 or 5 or 7, and you actually want to not be behind. And so that where it comes into these industry groups and use cases and working groups again. I am spending a lot of time on it, a lot of evangelizing. I would urge that we all spend the next 6 or 8 months getting, underneath the covers to fully appreciate what it can do. And again, there's a security side and there's a product and solution side. And they are discretely different, but they're interlocked in the sense of if you run the business, you want to know that your IT, your security, your chief security officer and are working on it, that they have a plan to address quantum. You're also on the business side of the house, you want to have somebody going, oh, there's product opportunities here. I could offer my customers solutions using the quantum technology that could help with cross-border, that can help with real time, that can help with fraud, that can help with security. So for me, that's a very exciting technology that definitely has. It was a big topic at Money 2020 last week as well.